Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one it's just something a bit different. I'm just going to build up a bike for you out of just some bits I had knocking around. So let's get into it. So here we have the frame we're going to be using. Now I did a video on painting this frame a while back, so I'll just put a link up on the screen to that video. This was originally blue and obviously now it's red. So I did a full video on stripping that and painting it for anyone interested. So it's aluminium frame, it's a carbon fork with a, as you see, an aluminium steerer tube there, mudguard mounts on it. So I will be fitting it with mudguards as well. So that's the frame. We've got handlebars, bits there, stem and everything, headset, that's ready. See the mudguards down there. Got the wheels, I'll put one tyre on and a tube there. Obviously it's rim brake, as you can see. So we've got DT Swiss wheels with Vittoria tyres on there, just for the winter and the autumn, for the bad roads. Bit of extra grip on those tyres. And then we've got box there, we've got a group set in there going to be using, and this particular frame uses long drop calipers because it can run mudguards as well. So it runs the long drop calipers on this particular frame. So I've already fitted the calipers with some new pads, Swiss Stop BXP for the aluminium rims, as you can see. So we've got the group set down there, we've got everything we need. So we've got the handlebars, all the bits there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead, crack on with it, and then we'll cut in, do some cuttings on it and show you it as it progresses on. So we've got the levers mounted on the bar, the R7000 levers, mechanical. So this is just a Ritchie set of handlebars. So we got them just mounted on there. They're nipped up just so you can move them left and right if you push on them. So obviously you can set them up when for the final adjustments if you just leave them slightly loose, don't fully tighten them yet. And then when you've got everything on there, you can actually have a look and see where you want them, because it's all personal preference where you want the shifters. Not everyone wants them right down as though it's in a full race position. Some people like their shifters further up the handlebars. Just depends. Like I said, it's all up to the individual. So we've got those mounted on like that. Obviously you can just mount them on the floor like that, and then you can put a spirit level on them afterwards, but to get them roughly there, just put it on the floor. The shifters, obviously the levers on the ground like that, and then you can double check it when you've actually got it mounted on the bike with a level across. So with the fork, we've got to put the crown race on to the fork. So all we do is put a bit of grease round there just to help it slide on, and then we slide that onto there. See the flat side facing to the fork. You can see where the bearing's going to sit around there. And sometimes you can just push them on like that if you're lucky, by hand. That one's just gone on there like that. If not, then you just get a crown race setting tool like that, obviously for a tapered steerer, and that'll just slide over there like that, rest on there. Then you just stand it down and then hit this end, give it a tap with a hammer, and it'll just set that in place. So we've got the handlebars in place now. Obviously make sure when you're doing your stem bolts up, you're doing them up evenly, so the gap is even from the top to the bottom on those, and remember, torque them up to the manufacturer's spec when you've got everything set how you want the handlebars in the position you want them. Remember to torque them up. So here we have the Shimano Hollowtech bottom bracket. This just happens, this is just a BB RS500 one. So obviously make sure your threads are clean in your bottom bracket, etc. And if you've got a cable guide, see this is external cables, so there's a cable guide underneath here, so make sure if you look in there you'll see the screw that comes up through from the bottom there is protruding up and sticking up inside the shell there. So you go to put that through and it won't go in. You're thinking why? It's because that screw's stuck up there. So what you've got to do is just back that screw off to allow it to pass through. So now we backed it off, that will go in position like that, as it should. So what we do is I'll just put some grease round the threads in there before we wind it in. So you know on a later day it's going to come back out without issue. And then being as this is a new one straight out of the packet, they've normally got a bit of grease on there around the threads anyway on there. So we'll get this one in. This is right hand side. So to tighten it, it's anti-clockwise on this side. So just make sure it's starting clean, you're not cross-threading it or anything like that. So we'll get that wound in. So you need the right tool, like that, a cup tool for this. Now this, like I said, this is a RS500 Shimano one. Bottom bracket cups there, so this tool is to fit that. You could have a different Shimano, still Hollowtech too, but uses a different size tool. So just get that wound in a bit like that, so once you know it's starting clean, just carry on and do that up. So now we've installed the right hand side, just get your left cup out. So they come with the grease, obviously you see it's full of grease in there, inside it. So just smear that round on there, on the outside there, before we just wind that in. Now this is obviously the left hand side cup, so this one is normal clockwise for doing it up when you put this one in. So get this one in, and then you can go ahead and torque them up to the spec. If you've got a torque wrench, obviously it's big enough. If not, just do them up tight. So that's the crankset installed and the pedals on. I've just got an old 6800 crankset on here. So there's the tyre fitted on there now. So these are Vittoria tyres, 25mm. Also on these 105 lock rings, obviously the lock ring's metal, so just put some grease around that as well before you install it. So that's the progress so far on it. Obviously just got the brakes mocked up on there so I could get the mud guards on, and the bars there cut to length, so it was right size. Same on the front, just got that one mocked up on there. So just doing the cables now. And always remember on these Shimano, on the mechanical levers, the cable, the end that goes in the shifter there, just goes in that slot with the bump on the outside, as you can see there, which goes up in that slot like that, so it fits in there and it doesn't spin round. That's what the slot's for on it. Just remember that one for the lever end. So people always wonder where you get these from with with that raised piece on there. When you buy a cable kit, a Shimano genuine cable kit, then you get all these ferrules in the ends, you know, in the packet with the cables. So that's where you get new ones from. So we're going to fit the front derailleur on there now, and remember, if yours is a braze on, don't forget to stick the tab on your frame there, wherever the screw's going to come through from the back, just there, puts the tension on the cage. Remember to stick your tab, especially if you've got a carbon frame, because the end of that will just wear away at the frame over time. So it's just important to stick that on the frame, or make sure if you've got a bike and you never looked before, make sure that is actually stuck on the frame, because I've seen many bikes that are new and they haven't got that stuck on there, and they haven't even got that screw there wound out at all. It's not even touching the frame, it's not even being used, even though it's a braze on, and people wonder why the front derailleur is not working properly. So it's always worth checking that is even in use at all, because it's supposed to be. But many new bikes I've seen they haven't even been set up with using that, so they're just mounted on there, but they've never even done that. So just check yours, make sure it is actually being used. So when you're hooking the cable up, like I've said before on these derailleur videos, which there's many of on the channel if you want to look back through the videos on these Shimano derailleurs, there's loads of them videos. But like I said before, before you hook the cable up, make sure that the tension screw here for the cable tension is backed out, so as you see that there, that's in there like that, and then when this comes round, obviously that's touching, they're both touching together like that. If they're away from one another when you hook the cable up, for instance, that's there, it's not touching that. So when you go to adjust this, as it pushes through and pushes that out, little tab there, out like that, it's not going to be hitting anything to adjust the cable tension. So you've got to make sure before you hook the cable up that those two are round, touching one another, and this screw's backed out, so you can make the adjustments by winding that screw in for the cable when you set that up. And like I've shown on many videos, those two lines there, as in the little dash on there and the big line above it, just above that like rivet there, make sure they're lined up like that. So that's what the tension one screw there is doing. So it lines those two up if you screw it in clockwise. Now the shifter position to do that, so if you've been riding your bike for a while, you can always recheck those lines as the cable stretches, so it's always worth checking it occasionally. So all you do is shift up to the outer chainring and then just go ahead, and as though you was going to change down to the inner chainring, but you're not actually changing down to the inner chainring, you're on the outside on the large chainring, and then you just tap the shifter button, lever, and it will just click once. It won't actually change down to the inner chainring, that's not in the right setting, it's in between the two, so it just clicks once, and that's the setting that you check that those lines are lined up in. So yours could be way off. It might not have even been set up from new. Many of them haven't even been touched, so it's always worth checking that as well. So we've got the rear derailleur on there, but I just want to show you something. If you just got one, for instance, and when you're doing the B screw adjustment, which is critical if you want the shifting to be spot on, then as you can see, if I push that derailleur over by hand, the cable's all hooked up and everything. If I just do it by hand, push that over, then you push it up like that, and you can see the B screw basically goes through there, this one here, 2mm, it goes through there and it comes out, you can see it in there, it comes out there and it just pushes on that tab, just there, it's sticking down, so it comes through and hits on there. So by screwing it in, you're just increasing the gap between the guide wheel at the top here and the cassette. So when you push that over by hand, as you can see there, if I push it up, you can see it's not adjusted properly because the screw's hitting there already, and that wheel is making contact with the teeth on the largest sprocket there on the back. So if all I've got to do to rectify that is just get on that screw there and wind it in like that, clockwise, and it will just make the gap. It'll move the guide wheel away from the cassette. So I'll just wind it in, and then we've got to just push it over, push it up again, and as you can see now there's a gap. So you just need that gap there big enough in here for the chain to pass through without getting fouled up in there. So we have the rear derailleur all set up now. So another thing, this is short cage derailleur, so if you want to know what yours is and you're not sure, then just written on the back there, it's got SS is for short cage and GS is for the longer cage one, so it's just stamped on the back of it in there, if you're just wondering. So that's the derailleur's all set up. So all we got to do now is wrap the handlebars and then just go around with the torque wrench and just double check all your important bolts everywhere, just to double check them and fit some bowl cages on there, and other than that it's pretty much ready to go. Right, there's the bike all complete now, handlebar tapes on, bowl cages on there, so it's just a little cheap winter knockabout. Just use it for whatever you want, going shops on, whatever you want to do with it really. Cafe run, whatever, you know, just general riding about. So it's got the mud guards on it and everything already, all winterized. So what I had was, I had the frame already, and I had most of the other bits. To complete it, all I did was buy 2 new tyres, 2 new tubes, handlebar tape and a group set. So what I did was, all I done was purchase a 105 R7000 group set, rim brake, but out of the group set I didn't need the calipers because these long drop calipers, so I didn't need the 105 calipers, and I didn't need the 105 crank set which come with the group set because it's the wrong size length crank arms. That's why I fitted that Ultegra one I already had. So basically the whole group set, because what I ended up doing was selling the crank set and the brake calipers. Obviously it's brand new straight out of the packet, so I sold them anyway. So the whole group set, so the chain, cassette, rear derailleur, front derailleur, shifters, 11 speed obviously, that whole lot owes £159, so that's £159, and all I bought on top of that was handlebar tape, about 11 quid, 2 tyres, 2 tubes, and the rest of it I already had. So it owes me less than 300 quid for a whole bike, 11 speed, which I thought was a bargain. So now, and it's easy to maintain. You can't get no more simple. Rim brakes, cables just under the bar tape, external cables on the frame, no internal cable routing to worry about. For maintenance wise, you can just swap a cable over in a matter of minutes, so you can't go wrong really for maintenance, ever so easy. And being as these days everything's disc brake now, rim brake group sets and everything now are getting cheaper because everything's going disc brakes or gone disc brakes, and now it's 12 speed as well. So the 11 speed is just getting cheaper, and you just literally can't go wrong with it. Right, so there we have the bike complete, as you see. So just a little winter run around, really. But ever so cheap to do, ever so easy. I say no internal cables or anything like that. It's all external cables, so you get a problem, you need to replace something, it's ever so simple, just straightforward to do, no hassle at all. Rim brakes, so again, easy, absolutely a doddle to maintain throughout. Mud guards on it for the winter or whatever you want to do with it. So I say I already had the frame, so I'm just knocking it up just out of bits and pieces really. The only what I actually did was, because now obviously everything's going, well, basically gone disc brakes, the 105 group set was just literally dirt cheap, brand new. So all I did was purchase the whole group set, and obviously what I've done is I haven't used the crankset, because the crankset had the wrong length crank arms for what I use, and also I didn't need the 105 rim brakes because this uses longer drop calipers on this particular frame. So all I did was end up selling the crankset and the brake calipers on their own, just sold them. So the whole group set only owes me £159 for the whole group set. That's including the chain, the bottom bracket, front and rear derailleurs, cassette, shifters. 159 for all that brand new. So you literally can't go wrong. The only things I had to buy for it was handlebar tape, 2 tyres, 2 inner tubes, and the rest of it I already had. So it literally owes me, I don't know, well, put it this way, less than 300 quid for the whole bike complete, 11 speed. So I hope you found that video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.